and now it's not Elliot, but it's myself that's doing the interview. And we have another very, very, well, really cool guest with us today because this is Peter Márki-Zay.
Yes.
Yes, exactly, from Hungary. And I think for the viewers here, you might know him from running against Orbán as the main opposition, I would say, in 2022, correct? In Hungary.
Right. I was joking when I was talking to ambassadors last time, and we were discussing the chances of defeating Orbán this time. And many people present Magyar Péter as the next prime minister of Hungary. And I reminded them that I used to be the former next prime minister of Hungary.
Former next prime minister. Yeah. Very smart, very smart. I mean, I mean, you were second place, obviously, and
Right.
it was.
Yeah. Second is a good
It's
place.
a good
I mean,
play.
at the Olympics, it's great. At politics,
It's not so good.
not so much.
It's not
Yes.
so good. It's not so good. Well, we're going to talk about all of that, Mr. Márki-Zay, but let's start back a little bit because Orbán has been in power since 2010, and that's 15 years. And would you say the country has changed, or how do you feel about the last 15 years if you look back then and now?
Mhm. Well, it has changed, but obviously not only to the worse. Some things developed and some good things were done by Orban and by his government. But altogether, the biggest change is that Hungary became a crooked democracy, a sick man of Europe. And not only Orban destroyed democracy and rule of law and market economy, free enterprise system in Hungary by his corrupt regime, but it also is a virus, and this virus is spreading. My concern is that when we see AfD and Le Pen and Vox and Salvini and the others in Europe, I recognize Orban in them, and we also know what Orban did. Orban made himself extremely rich. He's one of the richest men on earth now. Of course, nominally it's not on his name, but his friend's name, his childhood friend's name, an extremely stupid man. But he is now the officially he has the wealth of 4 or 5 billion euros. Imagine how much they
That's how
have unofficially.
unofficially.
So anyway, he became extremely rich, and Hungary became the least wealthy country, the poorest country in Europe, with the highest inflation, food prices, and sending troops. Just imagine the small Hungary. What do we have to do in Chad, in the middle of Africa? And they are sending troops. Of course, for Russian interest, they are vetoing sanctions against
Right.
corrupt Russian politicians. They are they're harboring corrupt politicians, formerly from Macedonia, all Putin's friends, but now from Poland as well. So it's a disgrace what they achieved, and not only politically but also economically.
I mean, we are a European channel, so we look at the EU and we know Orban for his veto.
Yes.
That's what we know him for. And I think maybe if you could go a bit deeper into that, like why is he using the veto against Ukraine, for example? I mean, is there an ideological issue here, or is it more of a well, the things you were mentioning, more like
Very
yeah,
interesting because Orban, and many Europeans, they know Orban as a illiberal hero, and now he's a model for not only Trump but also European illiberals, and they even created their own faction in the European Parliament, and it's one of the strongest ones. So Orban seems to be like a hero based on ideological reasons. And unfortunately, I have to tell all these friends of Orban in Europe that Orban has no ideology. Orban started his career as in the communist youth movement. Then he became an extremely liberal man. He even was a vice president of Liberal International. And then he became a conservative. Myself,
so he went from communist all the way to conservative.
a
You're saying
little further.
a little further.
Unfortunately,
Okay.
myself, I supported him when he was a real conservative. He was a pro-Christian, a real conservative like Helmut Kohl in Germany, etc. That was my ideology, even during communist times.
Right.
I attended church Sundays, even communist times. He did not. He came from an extreme atheist, attacking the church and criticizing the churches. And he became a nominal again, a very much a pro-Christian somebody like Putin. Putin was head of KGB, and now he is the father of Christianity all of a sudden. So Orban doesn't have any ideology. Now he went as far as condemning the mixture of races as the ultimate bad, which is Nazis. It's not only fascism, it's Nazism. So that's why I'm saying that he started out at communism, he ended up being a fascist and a Nazi. And
Well,
he
okay.
doesn't have any ideology.
Okay.
His only ideology is corruption.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your candidacy against him in 2022 because you were part of the MMM party. If I can say that.
Yes,
Yeah.
Hungary for All People's Party, that's how we translate it.
Okay. Okay.
Officially, it's Everybody's Hungry
Okay.
People's Party.
Okay, because I think one of the questions in the chat, thank you, Cenk, B. Cenk, is please ask Peter about the size of his party, or more importantly, what lessons have we learned from the 2022 elections, so that we can learn, hopefully for next year, that we can do better. Like, what did you learn?
Yes. Well, the
Yeah,
size of the party is minimal.
middle.
So our
Yeah,
party only achieved 0.64 at the last European elections. We only funded this party in front of the European elections. We also have a movement. This movement have people like myself. I won re-election for the third time in my city as the representative of our movement, Hungary
right,
for All movement. We also have this one. That one is a little older. The
right.
party was just founded before the EP elections. And unfortunately for us, and maybe fortunately for the country, we don't know yet, there is a new star, a new hope for all the Democrats. And even those who have doubts about his integrity now vote for Magyar Péter and his new TISA party.
Exactly, because that's the main competition now.
Exactly. So because people understood that against Orbán, in Orbán's system, the only chance of defeating him is if we all unite our forces and we only vote for one opponent.
But that happened in 2022, no?
We did that.
Yeah.
It was a mixture of parties. I won the first ever
Congratulations,
Hungarian,
by the way. Yeah.
the first ever Hungarian primary elections
You're right.
in a country of 10 million, where about 8 million people have voting rights.
Mhm.
The participation of 800,000 at the first ever primary elections is huge. It's enormous, and I happened to won that. I was a surprise winner of the primary elections. But even as an independent, I was heading a coalition of 6 parties. Those became parliamentary opposition parties, and because of this mixture, it was a totally different model. Now, Magyar Péter is doing it without any parties. Officially, he has a party because in order to run at
You
an
need a
election,
party.
you need a party. But this party might have like 14 members, not 14,000, not 1,400, 14 members, because all the others, it's also like a non-partisan movement, basically. It's the only goal is to defeat Orban. And that's why we, who belong to a different party, we also support him. And I said that it doesn't matter if he is a nice guy or not. We will erect a statue for him if he defeats Orban.
You'll erect a statue for Peter
In our
Magyar
city,
if he
yes.
in your city,
Yes.
because you're mayor of I can't pronounce the name of
Yeah,
the
Hódmezővásárhelyen.
right.
It's a long name. Sorry for the long name, guys.
Yeah. Okay. So you're mayor at the moment, and you've already pledged your support to.
Yeah, I told that I don't care if he wants my support or not. I'm still giving it to him.
Okay. But imagine Peter Magyar was right here, right?
Yes.
And you ran against Orban. So what tips would you give him in the election next year?
You know what he's doing better than I did?
What is he doing better?
I also do. I also tell, not to my defense, so to say, but just to be clear, that it's like surfing, at the ocean. He might be a much better surfer than I am, but also he's riding on much, much bigger waves. And that's the difference between the Hungary today and between the Hungary 4 years ago. And now people are discontent. For 5 years, Hungary didn't have any economic growth.
Right.
Also, the people feel the weakness of the economy. They are also angry with the mistreatment of the economy, the healthcare system, education, even railways in Hungary, for example. I know in Germany they happen to be
terrible.
unhappy.
In Germany,
Yes,
it's terrible.
yes, it's deteriorated in Germany as well.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so people are discontent with everything what's going on. And now you see the signs of mismanagement and all the corruption and everything in Hungary. So now people want Orban out. And that's a big difference because 4 years ago, this was not the case. So again, in my defense, 4 years ago, it was more difficult.
Yeah.
But in the praise of Péter Magyar, he might actually be a good strategist and he doesn't make mistakes that I did make.
Okay. Can I ask you which mistakes you made?
Well, again, at the time it was different. So, of course, the coalition of 6 parties, it gave a big opportunity for Orban's media to attack me for being liberal, socialist, anything green, whatever was in this coalition. Magyar Péter is very neutral, so he evaded this kind of criticism. Gyurcsány was the former prime minister before Orbán, and he was really refused. First, a real 2/3 majority was achieved by Orbán because of the mismanagement and mistakes that the Gyurcsány government made. So this Gyurcsány was in our team. I couldn't help, because at the time that he was part of the opposition, he retired since, so it's a great news for me, Peter Magyar. But Peter Magyar never mixed with the old opposition, with the old left. This gives him a real chance of or a protection against Orbán's propaganda, which wants to mix them together.
Right.
So that is one thing. Also, I was giving answers. It's my style. It's a personal decision. Whenever these propagandists came up to me, and they came up to me a lot, they asked questions, I answered.
Right.
But what they do, they cut off 3-second segments and they put it pieces together.
Yeah.
And they
We promise we won't do that today. Yeah.
No, Fidesz will be doing this, because the interview is suitable for that.
Okay, perfect.
Fidesz can, now they are using AI, so it's a little easier for the propaganda.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
But Orbán's propaganda is capable of doing that. Just imagine that 4 years ago I was attacked by Fidesz. They alleged, they lied that I would make sex change operations on minors without parental consent. So basically, I would operate young boys, kindergartners,
You personally,
from boys to girls, and from girls to boys, and then bring them to Ukraine to die in the war against Russia. So this kind of stupid allegations, they really got on hold in the media.
That's insane.
It's insane. And you know who does the same? Trump. Yeah. Trump was alleging exactly the same. Trump even told this story verbatim, the same as what Orbán was using in Hungary. Orbán's advisors were working for Trump at the time. Little Jennifer going to the kindergarten and then coming home as little Johnny. This was Trump's story. Same as what they used in Hungary. It's totally false and totally crazy allegation. This is how far they are going to go.
Wow. Okay. That I just need to process that, but
it's a little. It's hard to process.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. If I hadn't lived through this.
Right.
But please listen to Trump. When telling this story,
he does have
crazy.
I'm going to look back at the comments, because there's a question here from Villa. Thank you for your question, Villa. And he asked, "What do you think of Tissa, and whether you trust the leader, Peter Magyar, that if he wins, that he will bring Hungary back into the EU and will fight corruption?" So, of course, the interest of our audience is very much the EU. Will things change with Magyar? Would be the
so even those people who don't trust him.
Yeah.
And he's coming from Fidesz. His former wife, now he's divorced, but his former wife was one of the most evil of all the ministers. He's responsible for the 3 biggest scandals as justice minister. His wife.
Magyar's wife.
Magyar's wife.
Okay.
Yeah, he was buying a Pegasus software. It was a
spyware
from Israel, and they were using it against civilians in Hungary. So that was one thing. The other one was in her ministry, there was a guy next to him, so the second in command, who was taking bribes from the judicial, not prosecutors, but those who, if you lose anything, well, you don't pay your taxes, etc. Those guys who take your home, your house, your car, etc.
The confiscators.
The confiscators, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, these confiscators gave a percentage to the top Fidesz levels, going up to the Ministry of Justice.
Okay.
Because that's how they got a license. And for the license, they constantly pay this guy. And that was the deputy of Peter Magyar's former wife. Also, the third one was
so there's corruption there too, in a way.
Yes, that was corruption.
Yeah.
And a pedophile supporter, so somebody involved in pedophilia, was let go, pardoned by this minister and the president of the republic. Both of them actually lost their political career because Orbán wanted to evade personal responsibility. It's very clear to me that such decisions could have never been made without Orbán's consent or order.
Okay.
Yet Orbán, just to distance himself from this pedophile scandal, he let these 2 most popular female politicians go from his party. The problem is that this is Fidesz system, this is Orbán systems. They are pedophiles, there are corrupt politicians, there are even terrorists supported by Orbán. It's totally the lack of rule of law. Anyway, so Peter Magyar, going back to the question, so how much, regardless of how much we trust Peter Magyar personally, he cannot be worse than Orbán.
Okay, so
and also one thing I trust, I mean, he is pro-European.
That's my key question. So you really,
No, that's one thing I trust. He did change his opinion to the better, actually, on the Ukrainian war, etc., and a few, even on the European Union. But I don't think, in the context of current day Hungary, he could afford himself not to be pro-European. So one thing I can reassure everybody, that if there will be a change, whoever follows Orbán will be pro-European in Hungary.
All right. Okay, Villa. So there you have your answer. So pro-European for sure. Okay, so maybe if you have time for a couple more questions. So next year we have the election. So do you think, if you had to put money on it right now, you know,
Yes.
1,000, whatever, however much, do you think Magyar could beat Orbán?
No, I'm actually not sure.
You're not sure.
I will be very
Because the
honest with you.
polls are very
But
positive.
yes, the polls are very positive, going up to maybe 10% lead. Of
Right.
course, Orbán is lying about the opposite, but we can see from his behavior that he's lying.
Right.
You know, we see the numbers and we remember how he portrayed the situation 4 years ago, and that their numbers are not consistent. So now this is a credible information that in the population, Peter Magyar is at least 10% more popular than Orbán, which has not happened during my time. So this is
Yeah. It's a good sign.
it's a great sign. It's good. Okay, but I also went through quite a few things, like I mentioned, being alleged of bringing Hungary to war if we win. Whatever, you cannot imagine such bad things which were not used against me 4 years ago, and this is now happening with Peter Magyar as well.
Okay.
So Orbán will go any length and do anything in order to defend himself and defeat Magyar and win the elections. If he loses, according to Peter Magyar's promises and according to popular request, he will have to prosecute Orbán, and Orbán can go to jail. Orbán's friends
Okay,
and
this is
Orbán
interesting.
ministers for sure. Yeah.
So
There is a high-level minister in my hometown, my predecessor as mayor, and we know that we have enough information, even just we in the municipality, to put him behind bars.
so you're
Mr. Lazar, he
Mr.
could go
Lazar.
to jail.
Okay.
No doubt. If Fidesz fails the elections, he would go to jail. Just look at the Polish example. You know,
Yeah.
now former high-ranking Polish politicians could and hopefully will go to jail. This would happen to Orbán or his family or his friends and politicians. And this is something that they want to avoid at all costs. So,
Right.
you know, I'm fearful of what is coming, because although political violence is a no-no in Hungary, we are very fortunate for that, actually. But again, Orbán's interests and Orbán's power is big enough so that anything can happen. But yeah, just by popular demand, Orbán should go.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like it. The polls
Yeah,
say it.
the polls say it, yeah.
Exactly. One thing that worries me a little bit, what I saw a couple of weeks ago, because Orbán went to the States and met with Mr. Trump,
Yes.
and basically came back saying, I mean, there was lots of deals made, but one thing that worried me was his financial backing that he was talking about, and that kind of rings a bell for me about Argentina, where Trump also gave a financial backing to Milei. Is this something that you think could influence the election some way? This Trump support? Or- yeah.
You know what is very funny? That so far,
Yeah.
all the information what we have is not that Trump is paying Orbán. It's actually the opposite. We know that
Okay.
Orbán is paying Trump.
Right.
We don't know if the money is coming from Russia or not. Actually, Orbán's wealth, most of it, the
Right.
billions of dollars we are talking about.
So you mean he's
billions
like
of
literally
euros.
transferring money to Trump? Is that what
Absolutely.
you're really?
Yes.
Okay.
Orbán has an institution which was the Danube Foundation,
Danube
or
Foundation,
Danube
okay.
Institute.
Okay.
And Danube Institute was actually financing Heritage Foundation. Heritage Foundations was paying U.S. lawmakers into supporting Trump, for example.
Okay,
So
interesting.
all kinds of, and into befriending Russia, supporting Russia against Ukraine. So my suspicion is that Orbán, with his own money or with Putin's money, was supporting U.S. lawmakers to help Russia against Ukraine, to make Ukraine weaker. So actually, also what Orbán did, Orbán was financing opposition in certain countries in Europe so that his friends will become the government. Le Pen received I believe it was like 10 million euro loan before the elections. So
Okay.
even Le Pen's campaign in France was financed by Orbán and Orbán's friends.
And he does this via this Danube Foundation?
Danube Institute was the one
institution that's kind of
the
giving
channel.
money.
It was the channel to Heritage Foundation.
Yeah.
But again, if anybody would follow the money, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if we learned that the money is coming from Russia. Also, you know, there was a Spanish company up for sale, and then a Hungarian company wanted to acquire a railway construction company in Spain. The local authorities refused. And I think it's because of suspicion that the money was actually Russian and that it would be in Russian influence
Okay.
and Russian buy-ins. Now that Russia is under sanctions, Russians cannot really buy anything,
Right,
right?
right.
But
So it goes via the other.
Hungarians still can.
Right,
And
right,
who knows the difference between Orban and Putin? There's not
right.
much.
Is this reported? We need to, Elliot, we need to write this down. We need to make a video on this. Yeah.
No, you will go to court when it goes online.
Yeah. Interesting,
No,
interesting.
just kidding.
No. So, okay, maybe final two questions, if that's
Yes,
okay.
sure.
So, anyone has questions, by the way, to the chat. Anyone tag now, because we got one more question from the chat and one more question from me. So tag us. So we have a question for Mr. Márki-Zay. My final questions. Imagine from a European perspective again, the worst happens, because we're very open. We would
Great.
love to see Orbán gone.
Yes.
Yeah, and
As
he.
any rightful, courageous, brave, sane person would do.
Yes. Okay. Exactly. We hope he'll be gone,
Yes.
and especially also because of the European story, the veto, and everything.
Yes.
But imagine if he stays.
Mhm.
What do you think the European Union should do? Should they? Because there's talks about removing Hungarian votes. There's talks
Yeah.
about stopping money. Do you
Long
think
overdue.
long
Long
overdue?
overdue.
So you think we should?
Stopping all the money from Orban's regime because he's using this for his own benefit. First of all, he steals from it and making himself and friends rich.
Yeah.
And secondly, he uses it for propaganda tools, showing that Hungary is developing without European money, as we can see now that for 2.5 years or 3 years now, the European money is a small part of the European money is not coming to Hungary. Agricultural funds are coming, a part of the cohesion funds are coming,
Yeah.
but not another part.
Exactly.
So at least, and this is getting Orban in trouble because the Hungarian economy in a corrupt system is definitely getting weaker.
Yeah.
And also the friends are becoming hungrier because before, from all these European funds, he could feed all the supporters and friends and corruption partners. Now they are starving and they are getting more angry. They are not financing football in Hungary, for example, which is a catastrophe for Orban. So yes, the Hungarian regime is relying largely on European funds, and if it's not coming, Orban is in trouble. That's for sure.
Right.
Okay, there's also the veto.
Exactly.
Is something which is interesting because somebody thinks that Orban should leave the EU, and even supporters. Now, Orban is
Does
criticized.
not want to leave the EU, right?
No.
Sorry, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't want
Yeah,
because
yeah.
otherwise he would not have a leverage.
Yeah.
What he is selling to Xi Jinping, what he's selling to Netanyahu, what he's selling to Putin is his veto rights in the European Union. Wherever there is a decision on Israel, Orban is using this veto in defense of Netanyahu's regime. He's using this in defense of corrupt patriarchs, Kirill Patriarch, for example. He was defending him in the European Union. Basically, so he doesn't want, and Putin would not allow Orban to leave the EU because he would lose his vote. So definitely, the first thing to do is to revoke his voting rights in the EU. Then he cannot blackmail the European Union into giving concessions for Russia. This is the first thing. In order to survive, Europe must learn to be strong and to be decisive on Europe's enemies. If they don't do that, Europe will not survive.
I think that's a brilliant answer. And now we go to the chat. We have quite a few questions. Firstly, I say thank you. There's one person saying thank you so much. He loves the answers. Let me look. Which one should we take? What's the stance on the European Federation? Okay, so let's ask this one from Villa. We already had Villa. So let's ask Kevin Adams. What is the Márki-Zay's opinion on Chinese influence in Hungary?
Oh,
is there any influence?
Oh, there is a huge influence in China from China. I could go in length to tell you the stories, but there's one thing I mentioned as well. No, I cannot stop at one. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, but Orban is building a railroad connection from Serbia to Budapest. It's the Belgrade-Budapest.
Serbia to Budapest. Yeah, exactly.
Serbia to Budapest, Belgrade to Budapest railway line. This is financed by the Chinese because the Chinese want to use it for freight trains heading from Piraeus to Greece, the big port in Greece, to Germany. Well, this is an extremely expensive project of Orban, and it has absolutely no influence on the Hungarian economy. So it's a stupid investment from Hungary. Somebody calculated that it would return in 972 years. So this is not a good investment. Okay. If it returns in 972 years, it means that when Hungary was founded by Saint Stephen I, 1,000 years ago, if they had built this railway, it would have returned by now.
Right.
Okay, but it makes no sense.
Right.
But they're still building it for Chinese interest, but secondly also because they take a certain percentage. I'm not saying that Serbia is free of corruption,
Right.
but in Hungary, this railway cost 40% more per kilometer than in Serbia.
So where's that money going, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another example is it's not Chinese, especially, but just for the corruption. They built a 40-kilometer missing highway link between Croatia and Hungary.
Right.
The border was exactly in the middle. The landscape is exactly the same on both sides of the border. The highway cost 4 times as much on the Hungarian side than on the Croatian side. Again, without stating that corruption is non-existent in Croatia, but the price was 4 times higher in Hungary. So basically, they are stealing European money. When European taxpayers pay anything to Hungary, to Orbán's system, 3/4 of it goes to Orbán's pockets, and only 1/4 goes for the goal. So going back to China, this is similar with Chinese projects, of course. So Orbán takes a loan from China to build something from, finally, it's Hungarian money because this loan has to be repaid.
Repaid, of course. Yeah.
So from Hungarian money, they build something only good for Chinese. When even Orbán, argued that this line should not go straight through the steppes, the fields of Hungary,
Okay.
but instead go through the main cities so that at least Hungarian passengers can use it.
Right.
The Chinese refused, and Orbán obliged. This is how big a traitor Orbán is. Orbán doesn't care about Hungarian interest, European interest. If he gets his pay, if he gets his orders from Putin or Xi Jinping, he will execute what they need.
Yeah.
And going back to the Chinese, the biggest threat right now is that Orbán is using Huawei technology, which is proven to be a spyware for China.
Yeah.
He's letting in electrical battery factories to Hungary. For electric cars. It's like 40, 50 electrical battery factories in such a small country. After China, Hungary is becoming the world leader in battery production because this is an extremely dangerous technology. It's polluting the environment.
Right.
There should be very strict laws to prohibit pollution. And Orbán is not enforcing these laws. There's nothing wrong with the laws in Hungary, but Chinese investors, Chinese state, they can rely on Orbán for not enforcing environmental laws. And this is inside the EU.
Yeah.
So they are getting investment